Jay, thanks so much for joining me here today. I'm so excited to have you on podcast, The Ripple Effect with Ray, and excited to dive into more of your experience.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about you, your company, and how did it come to be?
So I'm an immigrant founder. I originally from China. I came to the US around 2012 to study PhD in AI at Columbia University. So that experience really gave me a lot of deeper thinking around where the technology should be applied. What's the impact, positive impact mostly, the technology can play in people's life. So after that experience, I worked at a couple, Silicon Valley big tech companies like Amazon, Google. I led a few consumer health tech projects and kind of really going through the 0 to 1 journey of almost like starting a startup with kind of quote unquote unlimited funding. So you kind of have that exposure to think about customer needs, how to create a product that really brings value to people, and how to leverage technology to make the product scalable, cost effective, things like that, right? So it was a wonderful experience working with a small team. And but yeah, when that kind of in that process, I started to think about kind of creating my own company. This has been love the guest here. There's always have been my personal passion, kind of growing up, want to create my own venture, create a business, and the experience of working at a big company really gave me that inspiration and the experience to do that. Now, it's kind of funny where life takes you, right? In terms of the kind of the direction you're aiming for. So, as I mentioned, I came from really deep and heavy technology background. We do research and software development, things like that. But for some reason, I'm always an application-driven guy. Like I always think about how to solve problems instead of publishing papers. So this opportunity came when me and my co-founder were discussing around dental, right? So as a, I'm a patient, I'm a consumer. Growing up both in China and then later at the US, as a dental patient, I always have a personal challenge about getting around the system. Starting from the first step of going to the dentist, knowing where to go, knowing what to expect, how much it will cost me, it's always been a mystery. And I think this experience applies to a lot of people in this country, particular, but also globally, right? Because I think, 1/3 of the population do not go to see the dentist every year. I think around like 25% of people have no dental benefits at all, right? So the dental is kind of not in their life at all. But if you think about uh, dental care, oral health are a big part of your overall health. I just found that fascinating. It's such a kind of a like well-defined space that has no innovation happening much back then, right? Like we're talking about a few years back around the pandemic when the idea first came out. So that's really the origin of the story. Like we really try to look at the market and say like, okay, I know the challenge I've been facing, and is there a way to use AI um, to bridge the gap to transform the dental care experience that not many people are talking about? And I think that's something that we just kind of put a pin on it and decide to commit to.
Absolutely. So how have you utilized AI in tandem with dental care?
Yeah, great question. When you're coming from technology background, you always think about how do I use the technology to apply to this problem, that problem, that problem. But we did that same thing early on. We're trying to develop something driven by technology, which I found, not the optimal outcomes, right? Because oftentimes the problem, the customer pain are not, you know, directly connect to what you want to build. So you're basically building something that people don't have a need or they don't want to use it or it doesn't work as they expected. So one thing I learned from Amazon is their leadership principle. One of them is called the working backwards, right? So always working backwards from what the customer needs are. So again, like as a patient myself, I think about and I talk to a lot of people in general and talk to companies, and I found like what are the problem challenges that preventing people to access or engage with dental care. Cost is the first thing, and then second is understanding or awareness, like education on the importance of the oral health, and then the convenience part of it, right? So now we start to have like this whiteboard, like putting on these big pinpoints and say, is there a way we can use AI or other technology in general to solve that? So back to your question, like how do we do that? First thing I think, we look at convenience, with the digital health boom from pandemic, and in general, the whole transformation to digital first experiences in healthcare really makes sense, really drive a lot of success. But dental again is late, right, to the game in some sense. So that's the first thing we want to do is we want to provide people a way to tools or services they can access 24/7 to understand where they stand in terms of dental care, the oral health, right? So we developed something called a virtual checkup that powered by AI and the virtual dentist to allow you to simply take a couple pictures using your phone within guidance, and we will generate really detailed and accurate evaluations of your oral health status, right? So think of it as like your credit card report. You come in this month and say, where do I stand in terms of my financial health? Oh, in KELLS, you have your oral health report telling you, do you have high risk, low risk, medium risk? What does that mean? What do we recommend to do? But we don't just stop there. We actually kind of show a visual illustration of, where in your mouth and teeth that we would identify as a suspicious area or risky areas, right? Maybe you have a potential cavity being developed and start to turn and to show symptoms. You don't feel the pain, but it's there. So if you're not aware, you don't do anything, it's going to become worse. So we kind of flag those things, inflammation, uh, you know, recession, things like that, really to kind of paint a picture for people. Because to a lot of people, healthcare is things that it's very much a passive thing. Unless you show them what's going on, they would consider everything's okay until they feel pain or something, right? So I think that's one way we do it, and it's really empowering tool to bridge the first touch to the actual provider relationship, right? So before you even go to the dentist, you can actually have a quick checkup screening at home and know, is this, am I in the urgent situation to see a dentist right away, or things are developing, I can have other options and things like that. So that's the convenience part. Now, the other part we look at is transparency and cost, right? So oftentimes you hear people like, if I go to 10 dentists, I'll get 11 opinions. And that's very true, right? Because every dentist have their own opinion, different style. Nothing wrong with how they practice. It's more about personal style. Some dentists are more conservative, some dentists are more aggressive in treating things, right? So what we want to do is we want to be a unbiased third party, and we will look at your record, your data, images, history, things like that, x-rays. We can actually tell you, what we think are necessary things to do, right? So almost give you a crystal ball or estimate on what to expect when you sit in that dental chair, what you might hear from the providers. And beyond that, we give you estimate on cost, whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance. We can give you a kind of a projected cost. If you are going down to get such treatments, this is how much you can expect to pay or to cover. And that brings, I don't think anyone has done that before in that sense. And I think that's a big unlock for people to kind of gain more trust with the system, trust with their providers, and also just feel more comfortable, right? To talk to the provider, having those knowledge in their head instead of like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I just know you want me to do this thing, and I'm sure about, right? And this often leads to like, I think, a negative experience or outcomes down the road. So yeah, so kind of quickly on, we kind of develop these ways, and honestly, there's so many opportunities AI can tap into, and our overall goal is to create kind of the first AI-powered dental team, a personal dental team for everyone. And we start with certain cohorts, and we're seeing success on that.
Amazing. That's so interesting to see what is possible in utilizing technology and helping people, I think, be more informed before they like go to the dentist. And like you just mentioned, like going to the dentist, you get 10 different opinions, or you go to 10 different dentists, they'll give you 11 opinions with 12 different price points, right?
Right.
And so having some sort of knowledge or at least like a range of what they can expect to see, hey, you have this recession or you have this problem, this is what you can expect to see, especially just being able to take some photos rather than having to go in and get x-rays done, right? And so I think that's a really interesting approach. What would you say has been working well with KELLS, and what do you think has been a little bit more frustrating?
Interesting. I think maybe more frustrating in some sense. So I think what works well for us is we really heavily invest in the product, in the user experience, right? It's unserved market, in our opinion. That when was the last time you have some digital experience in dental care? Probably not much. It's all started with the physical kind of visit and things like that. But I think more and more generations, like people, are expecting and getting used to starting from, when they ask questions, starting from ChatGPT, starting from Google, starting from virtual checkup or things like that, right? I think kind of meeting that consumer demands and where the world is going has served us well in terms of getting tractions, getting attentions, and people's interest. And this is a big part of it because when you're building something new, there's a curve of learning and education. The market doesn't understand what you do, you don't get those opportunities. So I think being able to focus on those and stand out has been really great. The other thing is we really kind of listen to what people has to say, the stakeholders, the players in the space has to say about the challenges. You would often hear from employers talking about people are not using the benefits they already pay for, or they cannot afford the out-of-pocket cost, things like that. And employees are absent from work because of emergencies or things they don't expect to have when it comes to dental. And like dental treatment can take multiple visits, and the waiting usually is a real pain point. You have to schedule across multiple weeks, if not multiple months, to get that cycle done, right? So um, I think kind of understanding those things and developing a solution that really meets that demand is great. Now, for challenges, I mean, I think we can talk a lot about it. I think the first thing is to building trust is always a pain for startups. I don't know if AI kind of gives it a little bit more nudge on the trust because people are very sensitive in terms of what AI is doing, especially in healthcare. So, and these are usually like I would call it silent feedback. Like you don't usually hear people tell you that. They just kind of stop communicating or just have, a long waiting period internally. So I think that, having that trust is a big part of getting customers. The other thing is always struggling with kind of resources, how much you can do. You have to relentlessly prioritize tasks and goals. Because oftentimes, again, as a small startup, you can run out of funding very quickly. And if you're not generating revenue to support or you get funding, that's going to keep you up in the night. And yeah, I would say those are some of the challenges. But you look, there's always like personal struggles as well, like under pressure over years. Today may feel very quiet, tomorrow may be crazy. Like it's just like very dynamic, and you know this very well. So yeah, I think it's part of the fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is part of the fun of being an entrepreneur. You never really know what you can expect. I mean, hopefully, for the most part, you can kind of predict it, but it's
As
always different twists and turns that the journey seems to take,
I
right?
think, yeah, it's funny, like as you do more, people may want to consider they have more control. I feel like it's more about you just don't care that much, right? Like after 1, 2 years, you're like, okay, that doesn't happen. Let's move on to the next thing. Because initially I was really kind of doing a lot of thinking or guessing about how people respond, this email, things like that, right? Later on, just like it's not in my control. Like I can't do anything about it. Just kind of let it out and let the thing develop itself.
Absolutely. Exactly. Let it kind of takes its own organic form, right? Like
Yeah.
it's almost like you have a business baby that, you want to control. And then
Yeah.
in the day, you just have to let it grow and let it take its own personal identity and entity, as strange as that might sound. So where do you hope in the next couple years, where do you hope KELLS will be?
Well, I think the next couple years going to be very interesting time in healthcare and AI in the mix of that space. I think we have seen a lot of capital has put into healthcare AI. I think people see the promise of how the ecosystem can evolve. And dental, again, as a kind of a small subset of the ecosystem, we want to be the kind of the kind of most advanced AI company in the dental space for the patients, right? That's an area we really think are have lags that with consumers are getting really comfortable with leveraging AI to solve their healthcare problems. So won't be a big part of that. So right now we're really focusing on and kind of interesting about AI is now the barrier of developing product gets lower because the vibe coding and the AI coding tools now the effort are starting to put into really distribution, right? Distribution is the become the key. And how do you get your solution out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, going to be the focus. So I think the next couple of years, I personally would like to see Kels to be kind of in front of more employees, more consumers as the go-to place for dental needs. And we're going to have more kind of members and the data to help us understand where we can make the most impact, and we can amplify those impacts into kind of clear ROI for businesses to use us, for digital health companies to partner with us, things like that, to really expand the spectrum of what dental can play in the healthcare spectrum.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for sharing all of that. I think it's, it's only up from here. You're getting into this space at the perfect time. It's really exciting to see your passion, your energy behind what KELLS is becoming and what it's capable of. And just thanks for sharing your story here with us on the ripple effect with Ray.
A pleasure. Thank you.